Welcome back. This is still the BDTV Breakfast Show. Now we are on for the newspaper review segment here on the show, and I've got here in the studio with me Mr. Mohammed Akonji, our in-house analyst. Good morning to you, Mr.
Good morning.
Mohammed.
Thank you very much for having me.
Always lovely to see you. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Pleasure is all mine. I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you very much. It's been a very good morning anyway. I mean, journeying down this morning, it's more characters, quite seamless today.
Love it.
Sometimes it's always like that.
Some days are like that. You want to say it's Wednesday, but it's not really about Wednesday. Some Mondays could be like that.
I always see that, that peculiarity on a Thursday when most of, typical market women are always at home. It was a bit uncharacteristic saying that how seamless and straightforward it was, this morning.
So that means it's going to be a good day.
Oh, hopefully.
It will be a good day.
Started on that note.
Wow.
Definitely, we expect it to be a very good one.
Yeah.
And then maybe on the news front, a lot of things have happened. The U.S.-Russia discussion about Ukraine started yesterday, but it was quite funny what President Trump, with his usual shenanigan, throughout there yesterday that Ukraine could have made a deal. And at least the important development that came out of that in Saudi Arabia yesterday about, okay, that perhaps could be the beginning of maybe ending the war. But not involving Ukraine in the discussion. It's still a very, very important, trouble spot when it comes to ending the war. Because how will you be able to have, we're talking about two airing parties, and one of the major player in the war is not invited to the table.
It's not invited. It's a little bit...
So it's really showing a whole lot of tension and a lot of apprehension within the European folks. What exactly is going to be able to happen?
And then also the President Trump's administration, since he came, there's been a lot of interesting introductions, interesting orders. Also the transgender passport thingy now, it's... The conversation is that the passports, the transgender passport they have to change. They're not going to be accepting it anymore. They've been they've been transgender people saying that how is that going to work, because the same way they can't go to maybe a female bathroom, how are they going to change their it makes them feel not accepted, because they can't go back to an identity that they've been away from for the longest time. Just a whole lot of things. But then again, it also speaks to how did we get here with all of things happening?
I think he mentioned that right from the start, and I think it's and that's why when some of the policies was coming up with, it's not as if it's a deviation from what he mentioned to the American people, and that's why on Monday, 2 days ago, when Pew's opinion poll, what's it called? Pew's presidential rating came out. You still see that a lot, because the question was actually asked, is the president doing what the American people voted for him to do? And 78% said yes.
He's actually doing it, because he actually said this thing. So
it's not actually obvious.
It's actually
maybe it
not
can actually be
him coming away
explaining
from
some of
the
the
norm.
policies, maybe in that regard, especially when it comes to the home front. On the foreign policy front, it has actually been neither here nor there, coming up with these policies. But maybe in that regard, because I said, in American society today, there are only two genders, and I think he reiterated that.
He did that actually.
Inauguration. There's only male and female, and any other gender, maybe you can't be able to have that. But when it comes to accessing federal policies, federal services, only two genders are recognized: the male and the female.
And we'll just keep watching and seeing how different things unfold, especially how they affect us as a country in Nigeria. But let's start by looking at what we have on the front pages this morning. We'll start off on the home front. We'll start with the Business Day newspaper this morning and see what we have on the Business Day front page. Still talking about the rebasing and all of that. So the big story on Business Day newspaper says, rebased inflation rate stokes interest rate uncertainty. Now everyone is talking about this rebasing. That's been the conversation since perhaps the start of the year or so. And then also on the front page says petrol imports persist amid rising local output. NNPC denies importing in 2025. On the bottom left-hand side on the Business Day newspaper, it says business confidence grows as reforms bear fruit. Again on page 31, it says Nigeria's $34 billion lithium reserves is in demand amid global rushed. This should be a good one for Nigeria. But let's start by talking on the big story. I know you have a lot to say on the rebased inflation rate and all of that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think you mentioned that it's been at the front burner since January, and the Statistician General of the Federation came out to be able to give us the numbers. People have been expecting it. Remember, the expectation has been on since 31st of January. But they told us, okay, they're trying to be able to finish up with the methodological enhancement. Maybe there will be some important terms, concepts used in that cases that we need to be able to shed a bit of a light more on. And that's why I don't know if I'll be able to take the other part of the stories, but maybe just to explain that part. So the idea there is that before now, what we used to be able to compute our inflation, the index, was actually done. The last time was 2009. We used 2009 as the basket. And between 2009 and 2024, we all know very well, it is obvious that a lot of things have changed, you know, in the computation, what goes into the basket. Sorry about that. So between that particular period, so when the new rebasing came, normally the international standard is actually done every 5 years. That's actually the international standard. And we've not done that since 2009. Okay, 2014, when it was done again, that was actually the last time it was done. 2009 was used as the base year. But international standards said that you should be able to calculate your yearly inflation using the years that are very, very close by because of the base effect. And that's allowed them to be able to pick 2024 as the base year. And that allows, so because of that base effect, the inflation dropped by that rate from 34% that we witnessed in December to 24% in January. A lot of reactions, and I'm sure you'd be able to see that. And that's what I mean by so. But what they came up with, because the man should be able to mention, has this been politically influenced? Is it, are you trying to be able to make the government to look good? That could not be responsible for bringing down that inflationary figure. That's just. I mentioned two things that are very important. They said even if rebasing has not been done, it's expected that inflation will drop in January because of the base effect, the rate at where we are coming from. You understand? That is one. And secondly, is the fact that the reality in the market is that because of Naira a bit of gaining strength, there have been some stability in the price of goods as well. Prices have actually remained a little bit stable. But the rebased inflation was actually responsible for that significant drop that we witnessed. And then we see that coming, bringing out that into the picture. So first, this now allows us to be able to allow for international comparison. Yes, the food price level is still high relatively to what it was, when you compare a year or thereabout ago. But this will be an encouragement to investors. That's one. Why? CBN will start meeting today, and I think that's what you read there about what the rate will likely be. We expect them that 19th and 20th, and deliberately, because we're very sure they deliberately to postpone the meeting, which have held between Tuesday and Wednesday. They postponed it, pushed it to ensure that this figure is out, because that tends to be able to influence the direction of their decisions. Analysts, generally, experts and industry watchers, have actually really divided. So whether they raise the rate further, since inflation has gone down, why they have actually been keeping the rate high was just to be able to combat the structural inflation, that said elevated inflation that we had. So now that it has come down, they needed to be able to soft pedal, in terms of reducing the rate. So by reducing the rate to allow for expanded output in the economy, if the central bank would do that. While some also still believe that we are not out of the woods yet. To get my point out, some believe that even with the way we are, it doesn't appear that we're out of the woods. So the central bank should not let their guards down by reducing the rate. So the way it is, but I feel like most of what people are saying is maybe they will be able to pause the rate hike, maintain the same 27.25%. Why? Investors now, they are real. Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe some of the terminologies there. The real return on their investment. Interest rate is 27.5%. So whatever they earn, inflation before now was 34.8. So which means that they're having a negative real return. It means that whatever any money they are earning, if they earn something of interest of 27.2%, the inflation already is 34%. So the inflation will be able to hit up all their returns. But now they are having in a positive realm that they are able to move to. And so the central bank maybe for this month will tend to be able to hold the rate and then see how that maybe by next month if the inflation drops further, which is actually what we are seeing from what is actually be able to happen out there. But the inflation figure, and that's the question there, maybe to be able to educate our listeners. is, has this been politically influenced, or does this really be able to reflect the true reality? Because I know quite sizable number of people asked me that question yesterday. What? Where did they get this from? What kind of numbers? How do they come up with the numbers? And so it's like, so to calculate the inflation, there's a basket where they place all the items that we buy, including food, your transport, restaurant, meal, even things, services that you render at home. Imagine on a Saturday that you cook at home for yourself. You could have buy that food outside, use money to buy it. I'm not saying that thing you're not able to put value to that, have you? To say, this is a service you rendered to yourself, right? If you have contracted it out to somebody to cook the same meal, you'd have paid for it, right? So in those baskets, some of those things, how will we be able to incorporate them? You understand? This is what they try to be able to do. So we call it the Koi Cup classification. We call it Koi Cup.
Koi Cup.
So yeah, it's COICOP.
Okay.
So it is the classification of all those food items. It used to be 10 before, so it's 11 now. There are several items that are there. But the way they now allocate the weights to them is what makes them different.
And so all of these things are, this basket you're talking about, is that the basket, is that what is the consumer
CPI
products, the
so
CPI,
that's what allows us to do the computation.
Index. You know, I seen someone yesterday saying that, please, while we're at it, can we talk about rebasing the dollar to 700 naira per
No,
per
we don't have a say over that. Remember, dollar is not. It's so what I'm saying is we are not the one minting that. You don't have a say over. Maybe you can't, because you rebase, you redenominate money, you rebase inflation figures, you rebase numbers. When it comes to money, is redenomination. Redenomination means you can just be able to wake up tomorrow and say, okay, we want the highest denomination to be 100 naira. I'm just assuming the highest denomination. So what do? All the zeros from 1,500, let us not cough 110. I'm just saying. To say, the government should just wake up one day. Say, because Ghana did that during JJ Wallet. Say, the highest denomination in Nigeria should be 100 naira. I'm just imagining people to. So what we're trying to do there is, one, we're saying that on 1,000, knock off 10, right? Which can be easy to say in the mouth. Knock off 10, so that 1,000 becomes 100 naira, 5,000 becomes 50 naira. But the implication of those, I mean, it's far-fetched in the economy. You can do that in that regard, and that is only when you talk about the currency that you mint and print by yourself. Dollars, because dollar is more or less like, is a commodity in itself in that space that you exchange one thing for. That's the foreign exchange market. Exchange of your local currency for foreign currency. So we may not be able to. Yeah, we have a basket for foreign exchange currencies as well. So in that basket, in that market, we have dollars, euros, pounds. That at least we are able to exchange our money for directly. Yes, it happens there, but it's not just something that would just say, let us just rebase dollars.
Okay, so it's a different ball game.
It's a different ball game entirely. Maybe I think that is this explanation I can be able to give to that. There are a lot of economic explanation that underpin those.
But let's just stop there for now on that story. But I hope that our viewers have at least a little bit of more understanding on, when we're talking about rebased inflation and all of that. But let's talk about the next story on the front page of the BusinessDay newspaper. It says petrol import persists amid rising local output. It said also NNPC denies. NNPC goes on to deny
importation
importing in 2025. What do you know about this? NNPC denying importing in 2025.
The man came out yesterday. Okay. We're here on, was it yesterday when we're talking about this? What 2 days ago? That comparison, the person that did comparison of NNPC and Dangote petrol bought, the usual, I passed my neighbor generator and then pumped it up, about 1 liter of each, and then put them and see that Dangote refinery, Dangote's petrol lasted longer. And then, so the man came out yesterday, the NNPC GMD came out yesterday to be able to debunk that and then answer the question about allegations, about issues that, is NNPC still important in 2025? That's the question. But we know that some of the multinationals, Total, Mobil, they still import, just like we. But is NNPC still doing the same? And they claim that the last time they did importation was in November, and they've stopped since then because their refineries are working, and they're also able to get directly from Dangote. So that has been, the industry watchers were claiming, yes, they still import. Because if they are not, if it is the same, because what actually brought about this controversy was actually this about, okay, Dangote petrol is actually lasting longer than an NPC. But if an NPC is actually be able to refine the local sweet crude that they extract from here, they should be able, and they have the same catalytic converter, which Dangote also have. They should be able to have the same quality in terms of the sulfur content. So what could have been the difference that people are alluding to? Must have been that, okay, maybe they are importing the blended refineries that they have in Malta and in Belgium, had those ones that do not be able to last, just have that long-term durability. Demand debunk it, as I said. The GMD has said no. Since the beginning of this year, no importation has been done. They've ensured that most of the crude that they got through the JV, they go on the joint ventures that they had with IOCs. They will go straight to their refineries. Part go to, they have the other modular refineries that they supply to, and they're able to be able to get their refineries, exactly, and they're able to be able to get it out. So that's the question that is still there, because we know that the NUPLC mentioned that about 550,000 barrels actually made available every day. So the issue, I think we spoke about that in terms of barrels of oil that they made available, of the 1.6, 1.7 million barrels for local use, even though some of them eventually exported for local production. I think the issue there in that space still needed some clarity. The GMD was saying, yes, okay, maybe you're supposed to be able to know better because that is his forte. But yes, we are not importing any fuel. We've ensured that the fuel that we are using are those that we get directly. I mean, the fuels that, the petrol that we get, the petroleum product that we get directly are also compared to fuel, and then we use it locally. So why those allegations still coming? He mentioned something about yesterday, and he said it's about they're just trying to demarket them. I'm talking about the GMD, Mr. about demarketing what they do, and that all those they will not be able to glorify or be able to give them some honors to be able to respond to some of those claims. That is what the man said, in that regard. I'm sure in days ahead, investigations
we'll certainly find out what the exact facts are in the days ahead. Let's see what we have again on the BusinessDay newspaper. It talks about the lithium. So we're seeing something about Nigeria's lithium, $34 billion lithium reserves, how it's in demand amid global rush. And this is on the bottom right-hand side of the paper. Also, business confidence grows as reforms bear fruit. But I want us quickly just talk briefly on what it means for us as Nigerians, and also maybe for investors if our lithium reserves are is in demand amid global rush. Why is there a global rush for lithium?
Okay, maybe so for lithium's actually
weapons
for nuclear weapons. Some of them actually be able to use even in phone productions, in solar panels. I think that demand is actually going very well right now, and so that is demand is a global demand. And the Nigeria is also saying that we have quite sizable amount of deposit of lithium that can actually be used in in doing so. So that's, and it's actually valued at is about $34 billion that at least we have in terms of value of lithium that we have on the ground. So I think that is why this particular story was actually done, and to see the potential that economic diversification we have been talking about. They need to be able to look at these solid minerals. Yes, the man has been doing some good job in that regard, the minister, and he was the one too that was able to mention where we have lithium being domiciled in Nigeria and what government is trying to do.
And I don't even want to talk about the conspiracy theory part of having lithium. No, I don't want to speak towards it. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, and all of the dynamics of having lithium, blocks, and their investment, and how all of them are getting very, just as we said, the demand for global rush. We also understand what some of the international bodies have been doing in terms of trying to just gain access to this lithium.
So that's the solid mineral minister, Mr. Dele Alake, was actually mentioning something very, very vehement in that regard, and what the kind of the security architecture they put in place to checkmate, foreign bodies trying to be able to access some of this. But it is really, really a global rush right now because of, the way the international political dynamics is actually morphing. And the business confidence, as I think you mentioned that, but just like inflation figure came out yesterday, the Stabic IBTC Purchaser Managers Index too came out, and we see that maybe the reforms trying to be able to yield fruit, because a lot of them are now showing, most of the managers, producers, manufacturers are trying to be able to see positive signs, positive directions when it comes to the positive signs when it comes to economic direction of the nation. And that confidence is actually growing. Of course, the figure shows there's an improvement from the last time it was done in December to January.
And I did mention at the start of the year that I'm really thinking that this year, I really strongly believe that this year is going to be a very strong, it's going to be a very positive business year. But let's see what we have on the Punch newspaper this morning on the BDTV Breakfast Show. The Punch newspaper always has like a very interesting spread of different stories. Now, the big story on the Punch newspaper this month says, workers in 109 embassies groan over 6 months unpaid salaries in the embassies. Now, the ministry promises to clear arrears. Ex-envoys kick. Now, on the top right-hand side of the Punch newspaper, inflation drop. It says experts demand lower interest rate. Page 21 says Dangote's wealth rises to $24 billion after refineries operation. That's a good thing, isn't it? Now, page 21 says Tinubu, Obasanjo, others mourn as Edwin Clark dies at 97. That's one of the great Nigerian statesmen. On the bottom left-hand side of the Punch, it says Lagos Assembly says Tinubu's wife not involved in crisis. On page 16, immigration arrests 40 illegal migrants in Oyo State. Again, Osun crisis. Police go after killers. LG poll holds on Saturday. On page 30, it says Ukraine protests in exclusion as United States Russia race team to end war. Now on page 22, John Vent is a UK agency. It invests $40.5 million to expand Nigeria's cocoa industry. Now that John Vest is doing its own best to invest. Again, everyone is just trying to. Nigeria is rich in so many resources, so many natural resources. So everyone just wants to have a bite of the cherry. But let's talk about the big story here. Workers in 109 embassies groan over 6 months unpaid salaries. Not 1 month, not 2, not 3.
6 months.
6 months. And then ex-envoys are kicking. So what was happening for 6 months? What could be the problem?
What could be so it was a Punch investigation that brought out this expose. So it was stated that about 450 foreign service officers in about 109 countries had those actually be able to hold this amount. The reason for that, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, speaking to Punch in anonymity, said efforts are being made to be able to make the payment. But what have actually been able to happen? Remember, even the ambassador has not been appointed yet. 2 years into this administration, we've not seen that. So the spokesperson of that said that the ministry is actually facing serious financial challenges, and even though they settle those that are operating from the local scene. These are their officers, foreign mission officers that are actually working in those 109 countries, are those that are holding this amount. The exact amount of it as well, the man could not be able to put the exact number as to how much they're actually owing in total, but that the ministry have actually been faced with these particular challenges, even though the leadership has been working assiduously to address the situation. Their own finding says that the total amount owed, exactly here, was about 251 billion naira owed to the 450 workers, and it's actually expected. 251 billion was what they actually spent on salaries in the last 4 years, but the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, was actually there, and I think it demanded for more to ensure that when the recently approved budget is eventually signed by the president, some of these unpaid salaries and allowances to the foreign missions will be made. So the spokesperson to the ministry acknowledged the financial challenges that the ministry is facing.
Okay.
And then the payment, the last time they actually made payments to them, of course, according to how it was in August, and interviews, the interviews that Punch, had with some of these staffs complained about, unable to be able to feed. I'm talking about the staff who were there in those foreign missions. They are in foreign land, remember, they're not even here. These 450 officers who were owed this particular amount. In the final analysis, there was that effort are being made to clear it, but the reason why they have not been able to pay, they pin it down to financial challenges. And how would that be the case? The ministry received the allocations. So what do you think would have been the fate of these people who were working in those? I remember they're even in foreign lands. We did have to be going cap in hand, begging people. The implication of that would definitely be maybe you make corruption to be able to drive them more. If we are not really careful, because the kind of risk you'll be putting them to and the kind of helplessness you'll be subjecting those kind of people to is unimaginable. So they've not, the ministry confirmed that, but they were saying it's not 6 months.
So they're saying it's how many months?
In fact, the spokesperson there eventually could not be able to disclose that. But the Punch findings was not actually revealed that it was actually 6 months that those 109, those 450 workers, the 109 missions were actually owed. He promised that he promised that this would actually be made, as I said earlier, when the budget is eventually assented to.
It will be made known. Or what?
No, they will settle the arrears.
They'll settle the arrears.
When this is made. That's the only thing they are waiting for.
They better do, or they can even start with, settling 2 months or the likes.
That's even, because if now they're even debunking that it's not even,
it's not
whatever person is 5 months, another one 6 months. From the ministry themselves, the Nigerian office here, who is actually responsible for making all those. So all these are what needed to be sought out.
We'll just have to, just see how that entire story unfolds. But very quickly, let's see what we have on the Vanguard newspaper, because we don't have enough time. The Vanguard newspaper also always has like a very interesting spread. So we will just see what the Vanguard has this morning. High electricity costs choking teaching hospitals to death. That's a special report on the Vanguard newspaper. Speaking on Edwin Clark's death, his last words says, the family says, he said, "Don't give up on making Nigeria better." Those were the last words of Edwin Clark. That's interesting. He must really have Nigeria deep in his heart. He died at age 97, I think, or 92. CBN directs banks to publish dormant accounts. This is on page 19 on the top. Education suffers reduced allocations as NAS amends past 2025 budget. And I do think that it's very sad for education to be suffering reduced allocations. Now on page 9, federal government commissions NDLEA's first barracks in Yola after 35 years. On page 8, military should be barred from elections in Nigeria. This is from Jonathan. Now, on the bottom side of the Vanguard, still just below the special report on Edwin Clark's family's words, Boko Haram, the kicker is Boko Haram. Then the writer itself says US to audit aid fund to Nigeria. Again, on the bottom left-hand side, says NDDC, group warns organizers to desist from protest. On page 8, fears grow over Pope's health as Vatican cancels upcoming event. Now on sports, Chell to watch Musa Kano pillars. But let's just very briefly, I just want to hear your thoughts on if you were able to do a little bit of research on the electricity costs choking teaching hospitals to death.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's been in the news. The UCH
has
been on, but they were able to go further and even bring out other ones. Even here in Lagos, the Uniben Teaching Hospital, Uniben, I think they did that in the report if you were to look at it, how energy costs, especially since the last banding system that happened in April, what is has actually been able to push a whole lot of them. In fact, some of them have been disconnected. The case of University Hospital was mentioned. Part of Lutia, even in Lagos, have actually been mentioned. They have actually been able to suffer significantly as a result of that. Now, of course, they are entitled to 50% subsidies as teaching hospitals, but I think that has not really been able to come into that's not be able to come to reality yet for most of them, so that can be able to lighten the burden on teaching hospitals. And similarly, the Edwin Clark, I think we heard about the past death yesterday. Is another, just like Friday was when Paddy Banjo died here in Lekki in Lagos, and then yesterday, I think we just left.
The good thing is it's a celebration of life. They've lived life, they've done their part.
But you see, Nigeria is really, really, because in fact, somebody was telling me yesterday that when these people speak, they look like men that maybe like somebody that will never die. Especially when it comes to, how they took Nigeria and how they tend to be able to take government to account. The passion that's actually.
But that's a reminder for us, the up and coming, the young ones, the youth of now to also toe in this part. Every time there were pop culture, musicians are talking about Awolowo, talking about all of these people. But we need to realize that the younger ones, we are the next Awolowos. We should be able to live lives. We should be able to, make impact.
Exactly.
Really call them, speak the truth to power. We need to just be those people, because that's what those people did. And that's why we're speaking about them now. Yes, keeping the government to account. Not trying to be corrupt and say you want to eat from the national cake. Yeah, the national cake is good, but just trying, being fans of corruption or being a part of the rot.
That lasting impression.
There's no way
because I know I'm hearing.
We keep talking about them. You look at the last. How? Suppose that the last word is talking about Nigeria still. Like, look at that passion. How many of us have passion? And that's why I really liked our former anthem. It really spoke about I think the second stanza was really speaking towards just being as labors of our heroes past and all of that. But let's see what we have on the RIP to Mr. Edwin Clark and his family. I see it as a celebration of life. He's lived well and he's done well. He has done his part. We will have to take the mantle and keep doing great, and touching Nigeria in the most positive way. Let's see what we have on the cartoon of the day this morning. Okay, that is our cartoon of the day on the BusinessDay newspaper. I suspect USAID has a hand in this. USAID or BAT.
President Tinubu.
BAT aid. Yes, I know.
BAT aid.
BAT aid. USAID or BAT aid. And then we have them. They're looking at the screen in the parliamentarians pandemonium at Lagos Assembly.
Right?
Yes, at Lagos Assembly. Of course, you can see the police. You can see the DSS. And then that person, these are just neutral people, right? So this one says, I expect USAID has a hand in this. USAID or BAT aid.
That's quite a jive. Yeah, because I'm sure you read it in the news because of time. And then, because yesterday, the news was flying around that the wife of the president had a hand in what happened in Lagos on Monday. She had a hand in it. And then, luckily, another report came out and said she had no hand. She didn't know anything about it. But she didn't know anything about it. So maybe it's been flying around. What exactly could have actually been responsible for the high saw that we noticed at the Lagos State House of Assembly?
But we don't still know what exactly was the cause.
The house has been shut indefinitely for now. So
we don't still know what the cause is.
Sorry, DSS has reacted yesterday. Well, they said using the word invasion. In fact, they sued AIT and channels this morning because using the word, but they said they were invited. I was not an invasion of the complex. Okay, that one is there. But some people were saying it is some very notable people that are very well ingrained in Lagos politics said maybe Baba himself, P-Bat himself, is not well informed about this, but the governor and the wife of the president is another tussle between them of what we're seeing.
And I really like how the cartoon says, "Oh, is this USAID or BAT aid?" That's a very interesting way to
angle to it.
To put it. But that's how we bring it to a wrap here on the cartoon of the day, and we keep looking out for more stories. Always bringing you some of the latest stories across Nigeria, even around the world. It's always a great way to start your morning with us. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Mohammed.